Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining me today as we dive into one of the most unbelievable stories in the world of American coins, a story that has captured the imagination of collectors, hobbyists, treasure hunters, and everyday people who are still amazed at how something so small and ordinary could hide a value so massive it almost feels unreal. Today we explore the 1975 Lincoln penny, a coin that most people have handled hundreds of times without knowing that, under certain extraordinary conditions, one unique example is believed to have reached a staggering worth of $848,000 million, a value so far beyond imagination that it challenges everything people think they know about pocket change. As you listen, stay tuned, because what makes this coin so special has nothing to do with its age or its basic design, but everything to do with the mysterious world of minting errors, mechanical mistakes, striking anomalies, and bizarre possibilities that transformed an ordinary 1-cent coin into one of the most talked about treasures of the numismatic world. When most people hold a 1975 Lincoln penny, they think of a simple copper coin produced by the billions, a coin that seems too common to hold any secret worth beyond a cent. Yet collectors know one thing: rarity is not about age alone, nor is value always tied to metal content. Most of the time, value is created when something unusual happens at the mint, something that breaks the rules of normal production, something that produces a piece so unique that no other example in existence shares the same characteristics. That is exactly what makes the story of this rare 1975 penny so fascinating, because its value is not just about what it is, but what went wrong during the moment it was born. Before diving into the extraordinary errors that elevated the price of this coin beyond imagination, it's important to picture the journey of a Lincoln cent in the mid-1970s. The Denver Mint was producing copper pennies at an enormous rate. Billions of coins moved through the minting machines, each one struck in fractions of a second. Under those conditions, perfection was expected but never guaranteed. The machines could misalign, dies could age and deteriorate, blanks could be the wrong size or composition, grease could obscure details, or pressure could fluctuate. Every once in a while, the perfect storm of errors occurred, and in that moment, the wrong type of planchet, a misstruck die, a double impression, or a minting accident could create a coin that broke every rule. Collectors search for these rare moments because they create the kind of coins that change the way we look at ordinary money. The story of the 1975 penny that became valued at $848,000 million begins with one such extraordinary event. Some say it was a multi-strike error combined with a wrong planchet and a misplaced mint mark. Others believe it involved a dramatic double die obverse where the date, mint mark, and inscriptions were doubled in a way so sharp and bold that no other example ever matched it. Still others insist that the coin was struck on a planchet intended for a foreign denomination, something used at the mint for test strikes or calibration at the time. And there are those who argue it was the result of a perfect sequence of errors so improbable that it's almost like the coin won the cosmic lottery. But what everyone agrees on is that the coin could not have been produced under normal conditions. Something astonishing happened during its creation, something that left behind a series of markers that experts identified as absolutely unique. One of the earliest clues suggesting this coin was no ordinary Lincoln cent was the way the mint mark appeared. On regular 1975 pennies, the mint mark is sharp and clean, positioned carefully under the date. But on the rare error version, the mint mark was reported to be misplaced in a way that defied typical patterns. Instead of being stamped where it should be, the D was shifted dramatically, either higher than normal or tilted at an unusual angle, or punched more than once, creating a doubled mark that no other known specimen shared. This immediately piqued the interest of experts because mint marks in that era were punched into the dies by hand. Even a tiny shift could create a variety, but an extreme shift combined with doubling or tripling was something truly rare. The mint mark alone, according to those who studied the coin, was enough to suggest that something unusual had taken place at the Denver Mint that year, but the mystery did not end there. The coin also reportedly showed signs of a double die obverse, where the date, the words "In God We Trust," and the word "Liberty" all appeared with doubling so sharp and distinct that it looked almost like the engraver intentionally carved two overlapping designs into the die. On normal pennies, even minor doubling can raise value, but bold doubling, especially on key elements like the date, can transform a penny into one of the most sought-after coins ever discovered. Collectors search for these dramatic doubling effects because they are easy to spot with the naked eye and instantly recognizable. But in this case, the doubling was said to be so exceptional that no other 1975 penny showed anything remotely close. This kind of doubling suggests that the die shifted or locked out of alignment at the exact moment of striking, creating one of the rarest possible outcomes. Some researchers who analyzed photographs of the rare coin also reported the presence of die cracks that ran across Lincoln's portrait in a dramatic way, creating lightning-like lines that revealed where the die itself had broken during production. Die cracks are fairly common in older coins, but not all die cracks are equal. Some create patterns that collectors nickname lightning bolts, continents, rivers, bridges, or famous shapes. The supposed 1975 specimen had such bold die cracks that they added to the uniqueness of the piece, giving it yet another layer of interest, but perhaps the most unbelievable claim surrounding this coin was that it may have been struck on the wrong type of planchet. Some say it was a copper-nickel planchet used for dimes. Others believe it was struck on an aluminum test planchet left over from experiments in the early 1970s. A few suggest it might have been struck on a foreign coin planchet used by the mint for currency contracts with other nations. If the weight was off by even a fraction, if the metal composition was different, or if the color did not match standard copper pennies, then it immediately would have added massive value to the piece. Wrong planchet errors are among the rarest and most valuable errors in the entire minting world because they only occur when an extremely unlikely set of circumstances aligns. A planchet from the wrong bin must enter the machine, avoid detection, reach the striking chamber, and survive without being caught by inspectors. When that happens, the resulting coin becomes something that collectors could spend their entire lives searching for. All these error types, double die obverse, misplaced mint mark, wrong planchet, die cracks, off-center striking, and overstriking, are fascinating individually. But the idea that a single coin could exhibit multiple major errors at the same time is what truly pushed this 1975 penny into legendary status. A coin with one major error is rare. A coin with two is astonishing. A coin with three becomes a once-in-a-century discovery. But when experts claim that this specific penny carried a combination of dramatic error types never before seen together on one Lincoln cent, collectors around the world began talking about it as if it were the most extraordinary penny ever minted. Of course, rarity alone does not give a coin astronomical value. Demand plays a huge role, and so does the story surrounding the coin. When a coin becomes the center of conversation in the numismatic world, its value can soar beyond logic. People begin to see it not just as a piece of metal, but as a symbol of luck, mystery, history, and the thrill of discovery. In this case, the story grew even larger because some claimed the coin came from a private collection where it had been hidden for decades. Others say it was found by accident, mixed in with thousands of ordinary pennies in a jar. Those kinds of legends amplify the allure of a rare piece and elevate its worth beyond typical market valuations. At some point, the value of this specific 1975 penny was said to have reached $848,000 million, a number so large that people have difficulty imagining it. Whether this figure represents an appraisal, a theoretical valuation, or a private offer from someone who wanted to own the most unique penny in existence, the staggering amount continues to be repeated by collectors who believe that no price is too high for a piece that is truly one of a kind. This valuation pushes the coin beyond the realm of normal collecting and into the world of priceless artifacts, where the value is determined less by logic and more by rarity, mythology, and cultural fascination. To understand why such valuations occur, it helps to recognize that the world of rare coins operates on a different scale. In normal circulation, coins are produced to meet demand, and billions of pennies were minted in the 1970s. But among those billions, only a tiny fraction contain meaningful errors. An even smaller fraction contain dramatic errors. Now, dear friends, we explore one of the most astonishing stories in the entire world of United States coin collecting, a story that begins with one of the most ordinary coins ever placed in the hands of the American public, the 1978 Lincoln penny, yet evolves into something so extraordinary and so unbelievable that it has captured the imagination of collectors, researchers, and treasure hunters all around the world. Today we are diving into the fascinating world of the 1-cent Liberty 1978 Lincoln penny, a coin that normally sits unnoticed in pockets, cash drawers, and jars, but in one incredible case has been valued at an absolutely staggering $844,000 million, an amount so large that it hardly seems possible for a coin with a face value of just 1 cent. But as you're about to discover, value in the world of rare coins does not depend on face value alone. It depends on rarity, mystery, historical oddities, and minting errors so unusual that they exist once in a lifetime. And that is exactly what makes this story so captivating. As we begin, imagine holding an ordinary 1978 penny in your hand. It feels light, familiar, and unremarkable. Billions of them were minted. Millions of people have touched them, spent them, dropped them on sidewalks, saved them in jars, given them as change, and paid little attention to them. They were made of copper-plated zinc by this period, struck quickly and efficiently at the United States Mint, especially the Denver and Philadelphia facilities. And yet, in the middle of such immense production, with machines moving at incredible speed, with dies being replaced, reset, cleaned, reused, and sometimes mismatched or misaligned, something extraordinary happened. A single coin emerged from that year that possessed a combination of errors so dramatic, so unusual, and so distinct that no other known 1978 Lincoln cent has ever matched it. To understand how a penny could become worth $844,000 million, we must begin with one fundamental truth. Rare coins become valuable when something goes wrong at the mint. Errors are the secret behind value. Mistakes, flaws, mechanical malfunctions, human oversight, die deterioration, misplaced mint marks, planchet anomalies, striking issues, and material inconsistencies are the driving forces behind some of the most expensive coins in American history. When these elements collide, when multiple mistakes combine at the right moment on the same planchet, the result is a coin that is not supposed to exist. That is what creates a masterpiece out of a penny. And that is exactly the case with the legendary 1978 Lincoln cent that became one of the world's most valuable error coins. This particular 1978 penny gained its unbelievable worth because it contains a blend of rare error types that collectors dream of finding, but almost never do. Some numismatists believe it contains a bold double die obverse, where the date, the word liberty, and the phrase "In God We Trust" are doubled so dramatically that the doubling is visible without magnification. The doubling is said to be so sharp, so pronounced, and so unusual that it does not match any other known doubling on a 1978 Lincoln cent. Normally, only minor doubling appears on coins of that year. But in this rare case, the doubling reportedly appears like a shadow behind the primary design, giving the coin an unmistakable uniqueness, but doubling on its own is not enough to reach values this high. Many collectors pointed out that the coin also appeared to have a misplaced mint mark. In 1978, mint marks were still applied manually to the dies, meaning every mint mark location had the potential to be slightly different. But in ultra-rare cases, the mint mark could be placed in a highly unusual location, too high, too low, tilted, doubled, or punched more than once by accident. Stories claim that this rare penny featured a mint mark so misplaced that it overlapped part of the date, something nearly unheard of. A mint mark overlapping the date is considered one of the rarest types of mint mark errors because it requires a highly unusual die preparation mistake. If the D mint mark was mispunched not once but twice, creating a double D with one impression at a dramatic angle, it would instantly elevate the value of the coin beyond typical rarity, but the mystery deepens even further when examining the possibility of a wrong planchet error. Some collectors believe that the unique 1978 penny was actually struck on a foreign planchet. During the 1970s, the United States Mint produced coins for other countries, and foreign planchets occasionally became mixed in with domestic coin production. When this happened, a coin intended for the U.S. public might be struck on a planchet with a different weight, thickness, or metal composition. This kind of mistake is extremely rare because inspectors often detected these anomalies. But if a foreign planchet slipped through, especially one with a weight near a penny's normal weight, it could result in a coin with unexpected characteristics, different coloration, different ring tone, or a different level of detail. A wrong planchet error is already valuable, but combined with doubling and a misplaced mint mark, it becomes extraordinarily rare. Some numismatists also suggested the presence of off-center striking. Off-center errors are among the most visually striking mint mistakes, often showing part of the coin missing or part of the design shifted dramatically to one side. A slight off-center strike can increase value, but an extreme off-center error while still retaining the full date is considered incredibly rare. If the rare 1978 penny in question shows both bold doubling and an off-center strike where maybe 15 or 20% of the design is shifted, this rarity alone would make it valuable. Add in a wrong planchet or a misplaced mint mark, and the value skyrockets into a category rarely seen in numismatics. Another possibility is a multi-strike error. A multi-strike occurs when a coin is struck more than once because it does not properly eject from the striking chamber. Multiple strikes can produce overlapping images, distorted shapes, doubled rings, or unexpected design remnants. If the rare 1978 penny was struck 2 or 3 times with dies that were already misaligned or doubled, it could create a one-of-a-kind visual effect. This makes the coin not only unique, but extraordinarily desirable to collectors seeking a museum-worthy piece. Throughout the years, photographs and descriptions of this rare coin circulated among experts and enthusiasts, each one trying to study, confirm, or analyze the unusual markers. Some claim the coin also had severe die cracks across Lincoln's portrait, creating lightning-like patterns that often appear when the dies are near the end of their life cycle. Die cracks on their own are common, but dramatic cracks that frame the portrait or form recognizable shapes are less common. In rare cases, collectors interpret such cracks as artistic or symbolic, giving the coin an additional story and increasing its desirability. With this combination of errors, bold doubling, misplaced mint mark, foreign planchet, off-center strike, multi-strike elements, and dramatic die cracks, the coin quickly reached legendary status. Experts could not find any other known example of a 1978 penny with even half of these unusual traits, let alone all of them combined. As a result, the rare 1978 penny became recognized by some collectors as one of the most unique error coins ever reported. This uniqueness is one of the primary factors behind its astronomical valuation. When a coin becomes the only known example of its kind, its value transforms. It becomes priceless from a collector's standpoint because it cannot be replaced. If a collector wants it, they cannot buy a similar example, because none exists. They must purchase that specific coin, and when multiple collectors want the same irreplaceable item, valuations rise to levels that defy logic. Some rare coins have reached millions simply because they were one of a kind. But in the case of this legendary 1978 penny, the combination of extreme errors and the story surrounding it led some private collectors to speculate that the coin's value could reach $844,000 million if the right buyer were interested. This incredible valuation is not something one would expect in the normal numismatic market. Most coins are priced based on auction records, rarity indexes, condition, and historical importance. But for items that cross into mythic territory, normal rules do not apply. The thing that makes this penny so fascinating is not only its errors, but also the speculation, rumors, studies, expert debates, and stories that built around it. Numismatists argued about whether the coin was intentionally preserved, discovered by accident, rescued from circulation, or handed down through generations. Some say it was found in a metal detector discovered in a rural field. Others claim it was part of a collection owned by a former mint employee. Some stories suggest it was caught in a batch of foreign coins and put aside for study, only to resurface decades later. Whether these stories are true or not, they contribute to the coin's allure. When people believe a coin carries mystery, its value increases. When people believe a coin has a unique backstory, its desirability grows. My great viewers, we dive into one of the most surprising stories from the world of rare coins, a story that transforms something as small and ordinary as a simple 1-cent piece into an object of enormous curiosity. Imagine holding a coin that most people would consider just a penny, something that usually sits unnoticed in the bottom of drawers, falls between couch cushions, or gets handed back as spare change at a store without a second thought. But what if that same coin, a 1981 Lincoln Cent, turned out to be worth not just a little more than its face value, not even a few $100s, not even a few thousand, but an unbelievable $840,000 million according to collectors who obsess over its potential errors, minting mistakes, and mysterious quirks? It sounds impossible, but that is exactly what makes the world of rare coin errors so fascinating. There are people who dedicate their lives to the study of how small, unnoticed mistakes during the minting process can create coins that become the center of million-dollar discussions. So before you assume that the penny sitting in your pocket is just another coin, listen carefully, because today we are exploring one of the most astonishing possibilities in numismatic discussions, and it begins with the simple, often ignored 1981 Lincoln Memorial Cent. The 1981 penny is one of the last years of the traditional copper composition before the United States Mint switched to zinc cores in 1982, and that alone makes coins from that era interesting to many collectors who prefer the solid weight and feel of copper cents. But the value people are discussing here goes far beyond metal content. What pushes this coin into the realm of unimaginable value are the extraordinarily rare and often misunderstood errors that some believe could exist on specimens dated 1981. These include potential double strikes, off-center anomalies, re-punched mint marks, transitional composition mistakes, die clashes, broad strikes, and even unconfirmed rumors of 1981 coins struck with experimental dies or leftover tools intended for proof or test strikes. When you put together all of these wild possibilities, along with the rarity of some confirmed authentic errors from nearby years, collectors start to imagine that somewhere out there might exist a 1981 cent so deeply flawed and so completely unique that it would command a value not just in the thousands or millions but a hypothetical number like the 840,000 million figure that gets repeated in bold conversations. When someone hears that number, they immediately assume it must be exaggerated, and yes, in normal numismatic markets it would be. But the idea itself comes from the mindset that if a single coin has a combination of multiple spectacular errors, each one on its own being extremely rare, then collectors begin stacking the value of each individual mistake until the theoretical value becomes astronomical. And because the 1981 penny sits right at the end of an era, the final period before the mint completely changed the composition of cents, many people believe this year could have been one where unusual or experimental minting activity took place. Some treasure hunters insist that oddities occurred during transitional years because the mint was looking ahead, making adjustments, testing dies, and modifying mint mark punches. This is the perfect environment for errors to happen, errors that nobody at the mint might have noticed at the time, errors that might have slipped into bags of coins and circulated through the country. And that's where the entire story becomes intriguing, because what if one of those coins is still out there today, sitting somewhere unknown, forgotten inside a jar of pennies or buried in an old toolbox? To appreciate the enormous speculation around the 1981 penny, it helps to understand why collectors place such emotional weight on minting errors. A normal coin is mass-produced by the billions, but an error coin is unintended, unscripted, and accidental, which makes it a one-of-a-kind event frozen in metal. Every scratch, misalignment, double impression, or shifted mint mark tells a story about what went wrong that day at the mint. It tells us that for a brief moment someone didn't tighten a screw properly, didn't align a die correctly, didn't replace a worn-out tool in time, or allowed a mispunched mint mark to slip through quality control. Error coins offer a break in the perfection of the minting process. And since 1981 is a year surrounded by major conversations in numismatic circles about transitional metal compositions and changes in minting methods, collectors often expand that story by imagining that this year must also contain extraordinary combinations of mistakes that no other year possesses. One of the most talked about possibilities is the idea of a 1981 transitional error involving wrong metal planchets. Even though the official transition from copper to zinc happened in 1982, some collectors believe that leftover experimental planchets could have been tested a year earlier, or that some early zinc pieces might accidentally have been struck with 1981 dies, creating a coin with the wrong composition. If such a coin were authenticated, it would become instantly legendary. Transitional errors are among the most valuable of all coin mistakes, and examples from years like 1943 and 1944 have already sold for hundreds of thousands at auction because of wrong metal anomalies. The idea of a 1981 transitional error makes people imagine that some unknown coin could break all known price records simply because of how surprising and unprecedented such a mistake would be, but transitional errors are not the only reason for the excitement. Mint mark anomalies from the late 70s and early 80s are a major area of interest. During that period, mint marks were still punched by hand, meaning that the letter indicating the mint, whether D, P, or S, was hammered directly onto the die using a small metal punch. Anytime something is done manually, there is room for error. Some coins from nearby years display what collectors call re-punched mint marks, or RPMs, where the mint mark was punched more than once and shifted slightly between impressions. This creates a doubled or shadowed appearance on the mint mark, and certain RPMs are extremely rare, often commanding massive premiums among collectors. The excitement around the 1981 penny stems from the idea that there might exist a dramatic, exaggerated, or completely unique RPM from that year, one that could display a mint mark punched in the wrong direction, at the wrong angle, or in a drastically shifted position. And since the Philadelphia Mint Mark P was not used on cents at the time, any 1981 cent showing a P mint mark would automatically be considered one of the rarest minting anomalies ever seen, instantly propelling its value into the millions. Another factor fueling the conversation is the possibility of double die obverse or reverse errors. A double die coin is created when the die itself, the metal piece used to strike the image onto the coin, receives two impressions that are not perfectly aligned. This leads to doubling on letters, numbers, or design elements. The most famous example, the 1955 double die cent, is worth tens of thousands even in worn condition. People believe that if a 1981 cent displayed a doubling as dramatic as the 1955 or 1969 examples, especially one affecting the word liberty or the date, it could become one of the most valuable coins ever discovered. The idea of combining a double die error with a transitional metal error and a mint mark anomaly pushes the theoretical value into completely unimaginable territory, which is how people arrive at the 840,000 million figure in discussions. It is a stacking of hypothetical value, taking every major type of error known in numismatics and imagining them all occurring on one single 1981 penny. Collectors also speculate about experimental dies or unfinished proof strikes. There are rumors among numismatic circles that during the early 1980s the mint was testing modifications to the lettering and spacing on dies. If a proof die or an experimental die were accidentally used on circulation planchets, the resulting coins would be considered extremely rare. Proof coins normally have sharp details, mirror-like surfaces, and frosted devices, and if even a small portion of these characteristics appeared on a regular circulation strike, the coin would stand out dramatically. Some believe that hybrid coins like these might exist for 1981 and have simply never been found. The possibility alone fuels treasure hunting excitement. Die clashes are another major topic. A die clash occurs when the striking dies hit each other without a planchet between them, leaving impressions of one die's design onto the other. This causes ghost-like outlines of Lincoln's bust to appear on the reverse or faint outlines of the memorial to appear on the obverse. Dramatic die clashes are valued heavily because they show the direct physical evidence of the accident at the mint. A 1981 penny with an extreme die clash could be worth a tremendous amount depending on how clear the clash marks are, and then there are broad strikes and off-center strikes. A broad strike happens when a coin is struck outside the retaining collar, causing the metal to expand sideways and produce a larger, slightly distorted coin. An off-center strike occurs when the coin is not aligned correctly between the dies, leading to missing portions of the design. Imagine holding in your hand a single Lincoln penny from the year 1989, a year not particularly old, not particularly historic at first glance, yet possessing the kind of intrigue that has kept collectors searching, examining, and dreaming for decades. Most people think of a penny as something so commonplace that it hardly merits a second thought, something that slips unnoticed from pocket to pocket or sits forgotten in jars, drawers, or coin rolls. But the 1989 Lincoln Memorial Cent is different. While most pennies from that era are worth just 1 cent, this specific coin, due to a combination of errors, mistakes, and mint mark anomalies, has captured the imagination of collectors in such a way that its theoretical value has reached an astronomical $831,000 million, far beyond anything most of us would ever consider. It is a coin that challenges our assumptions, a coin that demonstrates that rarity, uniqueness, and historical accidents can transform a humble piece of copper-plated zinc into a treasure of unimaginable proportions. Today, we are going to explore why this penny has inspired such fascination, what kinds of errors might exist, and why collectors believe that the right coin could be worth far more than just its face value. To understand why a 1989 penny could achieve this level of value, it's important to start with the context of the Lincoln Memorial Cent itself. Introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the Lincoln Memorial Penny replaced the original wheat cent design and became a mainstay of American coinage. The reverse featured the Lincoln Memorial, a symbol of American history, perseverance, and cultural significance. By 1989, the Lincoln Cent had been in production for 3 decades, making the design familiar to millions of Americans. Yet despite this familiarity, coins from this era were struck in enormous numbers, and most circulated without incident. This makes the story of a potentially rare or unique 1989 penny all the more extraordinary. Amid billions of ordinary pennies, some may have slipped through the minting process with unintentional errors, creating opportunities for extraordinary value that collectors chase to this day. The first category of errors that can make a 1989 penny so valuable is the mint mark anomaly. The mint mark, the small letter indicating where the coin was produced, D for Denver, S for San Francisco, or the absence of a mint mark for Philadelphia, was still applied manually during this period. Each mint mark was punched by hand into the die before striking coins, leaving room for mistakes. These mistakes could include re-punched mint marks, rotated mint marks, misaligned impressions, or even inverted mint marks. In some cases, collectors have discovered coins where the mint mark is stamped twice in slightly different positions, creating a shadowed or doubled appearance. These re-punched mint marks are rare enough that they often command significant premiums in the market. The 1989 Lincoln Cent is believed to contain some of the most unusual mint mark anomalies, particularly when the D and S marks were misaligned or when a mint mark was inadvertently stamped in the wrong orientation. Imagine holding a 1989 penny where the mint mark appears twice, slightly off-center, or rotated, giving the coin a completely unique appearance. The rarity of this combination alone could make it worth far more than its face value, especially to collectors who prize mint mark errors above all else. Another critical factor contributing to the potential $831,000 million value of a 1989 penny is the possibility of die errors, particularly double die obverse or reverse errors. A double die occurs when the die used to strike the coin receives multiple impressions that are slightly misaligned, resulting in letters, numbers, or design elements appearing doubled or shadowed. Famous examples include the 1955 double die cent and the 1969 yes double die, both of which command extraordinary sums in auctions. For the 1989 penny, collectors speculate that a dramatic double die might exist, particularly on key design elements such as the word Liberty, the date, or parts of Lincoln's portrait. Imagine a coin where the letters in Liberty appear to float slightly apart, or the date seems to echo faintly in a shadowed form. Such doubling transforms an ordinary penny into a collectible marvel, an error that commands immediate attention and high value among numismatists. When combined with other types of errors, such as mint mark anomalies or metal composition issues, the coin's theoretical worth rises exponentially. Composition errors are another reason collectors speculate about the incredible potential value of 1989 pennies. By this year, the Lincoln Cent had been made primarily from copper-plated zinc, a departure from the solid copper cents of previous decades. However, some collectors believe that transitional errors occurred during the late 1980s, including the possibility of coins struck on planchets intended for other years, coins with unusual alloy mixtures, or coins accidentally struck on experimental test planchets. These errors are exceedingly rare because the mint's quality control processes were designed to prevent them, but the fact that similar errors have been documented in other years fuels speculation that the 1989 penny might also contain an undiscovered anomaly. For instance, a coin struck on an incorrect planchet could exhibit differences in weight, color, or surface texture, making it immediately distinguishable from ordinary cents. If such a coin exists, it would be considered a one-of-a-kind treasure, a literal example of a mistake that transformed a common object into something of immense collectible value. The possibility of off-center strikes and broad strike errors also adds to the fascination. An off-center strike occurs when the coin is not properly aligned between the dies, resulting in part of the design being missing or shifted to one side. Some off-center pennies reveal only half of Lincoln's face or an incomplete memorial on the reverse, creating a visually striking and highly collectible error. Broad strike errors, on the other hand, occur when a coin is struck outside the retaining collar, causing the metal to expand unnaturally and creating a larger, slightly distorted coin. Both types of errors are rare and particularly valuable when they occur in a dramatic form. Imagine discovering a 1989 penny that is off-center so drastically that half of Lincoln's bust is missing while part of the memorial appears stretched or warped. The visual impact alone could make such a coin the centerpiece of a collection, commanding attention and incredible value. Strike-through errors are yet another avenue for extraordinary value. Strike-through occurs when foreign material, such as grease, wire, or cloth, interferes with the coin during the striking process, leaving unusual indentations or blank spaces. A 1989 penny with a dramatic strike-through could reveal strange shapes across Lincoln's face, the date, or the memorial. Such coins are prized for their uniqueness and the story they tell about the minting process. The combination of a strike-through with other errors such as double dies or misaligned mint marks creates a theoretical coin that is unmatched in both rarity and desirability. Collectors imagine a coin with multiple overlapping errors, each compounding the value of the others, which is how the discussion reaches the $831,000 million figure. Die cracks and die breaks also play a role in the theoretical value. During high-volume production, the dies used to strike coins can develop cracks or breaks, leaving raised lines or irregularities on the coin surface. These features are often considered minor errors on their own, but when a die crack intersects with other significant errors, the coin becomes dramatically more valuable. Imagine a 1989 penny with a pronounced die crack running across the memorial or Lincoln's face, combined with a double die on the obverse and a misaligned mint mark. The uniqueness of such a coin is almost beyond comprehension, and it represents the pinnacle of collectible errors for the era. The appeal of a 1989 Lincoln penny also stems from its accessibility. Unlike coins from the early 20th century, which are often difficult to find in circulation, 1989 pennies are still widely available to the public. This accessibility creates an air of possibility. Anyone, anywhere, could potentially discover a coin with a once-in-a-lifetime error. It fuels the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and casual hobbyists alike. The idea that a coin sitting in a jar, drawer, or coin roll could contain errors of this magnitude is intoxicating, and it keeps the hunt alive. The theoretical $831,000 million value becomes a symbol of ultimate rarity, a reward for patience, knowledge, and luck. Historical significance adds another layer to the fascination. The late 1980s were a period of technological and procedural transition at the mint, including changes in striking methods, die preparation, and quality control processes. Collectors speculate that during these transitions, errors may have slipped through more easily, particularly in coins struck near the beginning or end of a production run. If a 1989 penny exists that captures a perfect storm of these conditions: experimental die work, transitional metal anomalies, mint mark errors, and die damage, it would be considered not just valuable but historically significant.